So for today, I have the honor of welcoming such a wonderful individual, Dr. Steph. Habif. I was waiting. I thought you were going to stand there.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. And today we're going to have a talk around designing digital health for intermittent use. And specifically, please ask questions. I believe that's what you mentioned throughout the event and talk, and we're excited for an engaging speaking session. So please be an engaging audience. So with that, I will pass it off to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to see everybody. Hi, my name is Steph. I have been a member of the San Diego design community for about a decade. Where's Michelle? Oh, for those of you who know Michelle Morris, she's the very first person I called when I moved down here from the Bay Area 10 years ago. And San Diego is such a special place. I've really enjoyed getting to know some of you in the 30 or 40 minutes we've had to mingle leading up to this. I promise this is going to be worth your time. I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you for choosing to spend time here. This is going to be interactive, okay? So I'm going to ask you to bring some of your thinking and some of your experiences forward, because my hope is that what I share today is going to be useful for you, not only in your professional life, but your personal life. And with that, the only other thing I'll disclose is I'm going to give a version of this talk next week in Austin at South by Southwest. So the other thing I would please like to invite you to do is ask questions, make comments, express curiosities, anything about this that either doesn't land with you, that's confusing, that doesn't make any sense. I want to hear it, right? Because this is stuff that I, again, just want to make as useful as possible for people. Just real quick, if anybody's willing to just shout it out, why'd you come? Why are you here? What are you hoping to get? Yep.
I have a connection to Tandem. I have the instant phone.
Okay.
So I was like interested to hear like if you had examples.
I'm so happy to meet you. Thank you for being here. What's your name?
Christian.
So Christian mentioned a company headquartered here in San Diego called Tandem Diabetes Care. Tandem makes automated insulin delivery devices for people who need subcutaneous insulin. And I had the great honor and pleasure of serving as the vice president of behavioral sciences at Tandem Diabetes Care for about 8 years. I left Tandem a couple of years ago, so look forward to talking to you afterwards. I'm going to bring in 1 or 2 Tandem examples today, actually. So at any point, if you want to be like, that's not how it works anymore, that would be really great. Anybody else? What do we want to make sure we talk about or address? Yes.
For me, the intermittent part is interesting. I want to make sure that we can also have like more human not screen time.
Yeah.
That's a part I really look for.
So wrap our arms around intermittent, and what does that mean, and what does that look like, and how do we do that? Great. Anything else? Burning, yes.
How do you engage patients in prevention and early detection?
Ooh, that's a multi-billion-dollar question. Are you a healthcare provider?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So what does it mean to engage people, and what is engaging, especially when it comes to health? Okay, so, yep.
I'd say there's so much information and noise in this sense that it's a lot to try to process and take in how much data you could have. How can some of these tools help to just elevate what are the things you need to know or actionable or make them useful instead of trying to like throw all the mess?
Yeah, thank you for that. Tonight, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to use the context of wearables, digital health wearables. Certainly, health technology, healthcare, and digital health is much more than wearables. We're going to use wearables tonight as a proxy for talking about where there's opportunities. But I just read a study the other day that in the 10 or 12 or so years that digital health wearables have been evolving in the last 2 years, close to the top of the list of reasons that people decide to take a break or don't use them anymore is the noise. I think that engineers and developers and companies have gotten really enthusiastic and exciting about all the things that possibly a digital health tool or a wearable could do for somebody, and we've just thrown the kitchen sink at it. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit.
I'm an instructional designer, so I work with online trainings and micro learnings.
Yeah.
So I'm actually interested in learning this kind of conceptually as potentially a way to figure out how to best engage people who are kind of like going into learning or training whenever they need it. It's very intermittent. So I'd love to kind of hear the science behind everything.
Okay. That's a little bit of the flip side of the coin, but we are going to talk about it a little bit. And I am going to give you a framework that you can walk away with and try to play with in your life and at work. Okay, so I guess I should just mention a few things about my expertise because it'll help bring context to why I want to talk about this topic and how I'm going to talk about this topic. I'm a behavioral scientist by training. My first career was as a sports psychologist. In fact, somebody who I've known, Joe, make sure everybody says hi to Joe before you guys leave today. I think I've known Joe the longest of anybody in this room. Joe is a practicing clinical sport and performance psychologist. He's based in LA. He has some really exciting stories to share. So that was my first career as a sport and performance psychologist. And I got really lucky when I finished my graduate training. I got invited, actually, so did Joe. Joe kept going. I changed fields, but I got invited to go down to Australia for the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games. And practicing sports psychology on the world stage taught me I did not want to be a sports psychologist. So I ended up, I'm originally from the New York City area, came back to New York, eventually did my doctorate at Columbia in health behavior sciences, because I'm very interested in the idea of, well, what if we could teach humans to perform health habits every day? Or what does it mean to understand population level patterns when it comes to daily health habits, right? Daily health habits so often are talked about day to day, especially in the land of technology development and design. But what can we understand from population patterns, and what does it mean to leverage those insights and those understandings into what maybe a minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day interaction through a piece of technology could look like? So I spent about 6 years at Stanford up in San Francisco. I left New York, went to San Francisco, and taught several classes at the D School. And that's actually where I met Michelle for the first time. Were you my student?
I was.
Yes, Michelle was my student. Yes, Michelle was one of my students at the D School at Stanford, and I came down here 11 years ago to be closer to my family. It's a long story how all of us from New York, literally all of us grew up in New York City and all of us moved to California. So I live in North County, 2 miles down the street from my sister, and I moved to San Diego 11 years ago for personal reasons, and that's how the story goes. So I have about 25 years experience in consumer digital health technology as well as med device in regulated spaces. And I'm really grateful for the FDA. I don't know how many times anybody hears that phrase. But as somebody who's been in the belly of the beast, as I say very affectionately, of digital health companies, the FDA has done a phenomenal job over the last 2 decades of really trying to actively keep us as safe as possible. And I think that really matters. Okay, enough about that. Let's dive in. So how to design for intermittent use. I like to say as a behavioral scientist that I spend my time at work advocating for the humans using the machines. I'm a social scientist after all. I specialize in human health and behavioral psychology, but I get to work. I have the great pleasure of working every day with engineers, IT folks, people who write code, the builders, right? The people who build these amazing technologies that are in our world. And so when I'm sitting across the aisle or right next to an engineer or a product manager or a business strategist, I am basically trying to represent a point of view that is, what do we need? How do humans do that? And at the end of the day, the way that humans do health behavior is intermittently, right? Now, I want you to think about yourself in your daily life, either when it comes to more of the traditional health habits like exercise or eating healthy food or going to bed at a reasonable hour. But beyond that, brushing your teeth, taking your daily vitamin, there's really nothing we don't do intermittently. The digital health industry was birthed and brought to market mostly based on, rooted in, and influenced by the consumer and entertainment industry, which is a very different philosophy than health behavior, right? So we've got a culture clash that's been going on for a really long time, and so that's what I want to talk about. So my entire argument is that the way humans do health behavior, the way we engage in our health on a regular basis is we start, we stop, and then we start again. And it's that simple. And we need our digital health tools to reflect and embrace that reality. The promise of technology, this is my worldview, the promise of technology is to reduce human burden. That's why technology exists, right? Whether it's a wheel or a car, an automated lift, it took 50 years for us to trust an elevator. I don't know how many of you have ever heard that story. There's this amazing story that was told about 10 years ago on NPR. It's the entire history and genesis of the elevator. And in society, from the time that the first version of an elevator was made available out in public to the time that people were willing to regularly use it, took 50 years, right? Elevators do amazing work, right? They really decrease our burden. So the promise of technology is to decrease burden. And people use technology that is useful and usable. So when it came to elevators, one of the things that was a really big design challenge was for years and years and years, people would only get into and step into an elevator if there was a human operator inside the elevator, because it was so scary, because you're going hundreds of feet in the air suspended in the cable car, right? Like that's very, very scary. And so they wouldn't step onto an elevator unless there was a human operator. And then all the human operators went on strike and there was nobody to run the elevators and the entire economy came to a standstill. And so people had to get onto elevators if they wanted to get to work and earn money. I don't think we need to force that on people. That story is not necessary for making technology useful and usable. So what can we do? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I'm going to share some stories, all real world, some individual, some at scale. I invite you to ask your questions based on your experiences, either at work or at home or with family members. This is a woman on the left named Angel. She is showing her friend one of her wearables. And the story goes like this. She's telling her friend there, Angel, saying, I got this right after my mom passed away. I was having a lot of trouble sleeping, and I was really worried about that. And I was talking to my brother about it one day, and he uses this wearable that, tracks his sleep, and he really likes the product, so I decided to go get it. And I used it for a couple weeks, and I was really happy to see it. Turns out I'm sleeping all right. I'm sleeping pretty good, and that gave me peace of mind, and I'm really glad I got it, and I'm really glad I did it. So then her friend goes, that's so cool. Are you going to keep using it? And Angel said, well, it's one of those things where every single day it keeps asking me to tell it things, right? It keeps asking me to tell it how much alcohol or caffeine I had to drink that day, or what my stress levels were, how stressed I was. It keeps asking me, and I'm really annoyed. And so I just keep saying, yep, it's the same as yesterday. Swipe, swipe, swipe. I'm just swiping through because I'm annoyed. And now I have all this data. I have like a month and a half's worth of sleep data, but I don't know what to do with it. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep using it. This is our design opportunity, right? We are now walking around in a world where a lot of people on the planet, not enough, but a lot of people on the planet can essentially pop up a full comprehensive biometric lab for themselves. The amount of information we can gather about ourselves on a daily basis is mind-blowing. The amount of information that companies that make these technologies that know about what they know about us is mind-blowing. The opportunities are really, really big to make a really significant and positive health impact in more people's lives. So how can we do it? What are a couple of different ways that we can think about Angel and think about what might entice her, encourage her, enable her to keep using her wearable, right? Okay, so Angel represents the most common user experience and engagement pattern we see in digital health today, right? Most of you know this. I see a lot of shaking heads, but basically the majority of people who pick up a digital health wearable probably did it because New Year's Eve or New Year's was coming and it's a new year and it's a new me and I'm going to join the gym and for whatever reason, or my friend's getting married or I'm going on this vacation or whatever. We all have these motivation waves and we do things. We start dieting and we buy wearables and we start using them and we do really, really well. And then our motivation wanes because it's supposed to, because that's how we're built. Human motivation comes in waves. Period, right? But that's not how we're designing these things. In fact, what we know meta, at the most meta level, is that 50% or more of the people using these digital health tools will stop using it within the first month. We call it the sock drawer problem. Anybody have, I would love, if you're willing to raise your hand, does anybody anywhere in their life, their glove compartment, a drawer, a kitchen bin, have a smartwatch or any kind of wearable that maybe you use but you don't use anymore? Right. So half the room. There's our 50%. Right? It's a one and done situation and it doesn't have to be. Right? It just doesn't have to be. So my argument is that the drop-off reality that we see across our digital health tools is not a user problem. I don't know how to get rid of that thing. Is not a user problem. Is it on my thing? That's all right. Don't worry about it. We're fine. Nothing's perfect. It's not a user problem, right? It's because the way that we've designed these user journeys and these user experiences are extraordinarily linear, right? It's because we expect people to engage the same time, the same way, day in and day out. How many of you have ever used a digital health tool or any kind of interface where it's like, here's your streak for this week, right? And oh, this month you blah, 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 right? It's all streaks, it's all badges, it's all stars. Good job, you, right? That's born out of the gaming industry, right? I get it. I understand it. Let's just, give everybody a whole bunch of congratulations, you're awesome, 5-star, and they're going to keep going, right? It doesn't work that way. Not with health, especially not with health. What is one of the reasons people who play video games like to get those stars and like to be at the top of the leaderboard? Why?
They're hard to get.
Because they're what?
They're hard to get.
Okay, it's hard to get to the top of a leaderboard of a video game. Sure, that's one reason. Mm-hmm. It helps you level up. Okay. Oh, it taps into your brain. Okay, but why does it tap into your brain? Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that.
You put it at the top of your board, it's public, people see it, you like that, you vibe up.
Uh-huh. There it is. Ding, 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 right? Because we are motivated by other people. That is how human motivation works, okay? So the gaming industry didn't really have to design for motivation. Designing for motivation is very hard. Designing for motivation is easy if it's a one-time behavior. Can anybody think of just an everyday example in society where we design for some kind of motivation because we care about seeing a one-time behavior? Running a marathon. Whoa, I don't know if that's a... I don't know if that's a one-time behavior. You have to run a lot of miles.
I was doing that.
One-time behavior means you do it one time and you're done. That's how I think about it. I've never. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
The California redemption value on your cans of Coke.
Whoa, that's so cool. You only do it one time?
Well, for that one 6-pack that you buy,
Oh.
there's that 5 cents that's enticing you to go. And then,
Nice.
do it that one time.
I like it, but you get to do it more than once.
Yeah. If you buy more.
Okay, I'm challenging us now. What's a one-time behavior?
Like installing a solar panel on your house.
And, installing a solar panel. What might motivate you to install a solar panel on your house?
Energy savings, on your neighbors.
Money.
Thinking
Neighbors, money, social. Yep, you care about the planet. Good.
E-commerce, buying something.
Buying something's a one-time behavior. What drives you to buy something?
Like, I would say like motivation, desire.
Okay.
Basic surgery.
Oh, these examples are amazing. LASIK surgery, one time. One time only. Well, what's gonna motivate you to do that? Yeah, because you want to be able to see better, of course. There's one example I haven't heard yet, which usually gets shouted out first. Getting married, okay. Is that a one-time thing? Ooh, that's also not a one-time thing. Getting a tattoo. Winning the lottery, I love that one. Okay, so, but does that mean you only buy one ticket? Right, that's not a one-time behavior, yeah? Yes, sir. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. Death. Yeah, one time.
I mean, for some people.
Yeah, these are all really, really good. The one that I've had in my brain that I usually hear first and foremost is voting. Now you can vote every 4 years or sometimes every 2 years, but the act of voting, it's a one-time behavior. You show up at the polls or you mail in your ballot and you vote and you're done, right? The motivation, the energy required to vote, that's fairly easy to design. How do we design that in the United States? Actually, not just in the United States, all over the world. How do we get people to the polls? What do we use? What kind of motivation energy do we try to tap into?
Deadlines.
Okay, deadlines. Fear, there it is. Fear, right? It's very powerful. Fear is an extraordinarily powerful motivator for a one-time behavior. And our entire digital health industry is littered with graveyards of products for companies that decided to design by tapping into our fear. It's a dark art. I'm going to call it a dark art. Now, there's an argument to be made about preventative health. So we asked about preventative health. How do we make sure people get their mammograms and go for their screenings and stuff like that? Certainly tapping into mortality, and you don't want to die, do you? Right? It's a public health practice that's alive and well and is not going away anytime soon, and it works. But a screening is a one-time behavior. The digital health tools that these companies have been designing that we've been wearing, they want you to run every day. We want you to eat green salad every single day. We want you to go to bed at 7 p.m. every single night. Those are not one-time behaviors, but we're designing by tapping into the motivation sources that work for one-time behaviors. And so that's a mismatch. Okay? So it's not a user problem. This is how we're built. This is how motivation works. Okay? We've got a mismatch. The only thing we as humans do consistently is what our autonomic nervous system does for us. We breathe, hopefully. We breathe, our heart beats, we digest. That's the only consistent health behavior, set of health behaviors you're going to find inside of a human. With everything else we do, especially health behaviors, we are gorgeously inconsistent, right? We surge, we stall, we stop, we restart. I invite you to name a health behavior that doesn't happen this way. Okay, so intermittent. What do we mean by intermittent? Intermittent describes a situation that has pauses, right? It's a start-stop pattern. We start, we pause, we start. We stop, we pause, right? And so if we want to think about designing for intermittent use, we have to embrace the reality that an intermittent pattern is influenced by context, capacity, and motivation. That's why we took a few minutes to talk about motivation, right? I don't want any of us to sit down and try to design motivation. That's really hard. I want us to sit down and embrace motivation. which happens in waves. And that's great. That's okay. We can work with that. Okay? This is a pattern that is across every single piece of scientific evidence when it comes to human health behavior that you could possibly imagine, and I'm just going to share a few. When we look at adults that have to manage health statuses that demand daily management, whether it's something like mental health or heart disease or diabetes, when we look at engagement patterns, it looks like this. Sometimes there are days where patients, when it comes to heart medication, are really adherent. I don't like that word, but adherent. They take the medicine at the time. My mother just started Eliquis, and she's like 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Got to take it, right? She's really, really motivated because she just started and she just got this diagnosis with her heart. That's what happens. That's what we do. And then eventually you get comfortable, right? Because we're human, right? So we know that this is what, for example, disease management patterns look like. And by the way, pretty much every single one of us walking around has some kind of health status that puts us in this category, right? So if we look at population patterns when it comes to how we engage in the management of our disease, it looks like this. When we look at global patterns, when we go to the literature to look at meta-global patterns of health behavior, it looks like this, right? So this is a data visual from very large, consolidated, summarized, very large data sets looking at how physically active populations are around the world. Now, if you think about this at a population level, and I mean populations, countries of people, and you think about whether or not somebody might go out running on any given day, what's going to influence whether or not they go running? Weather. Weather is at the top of the list. What else? Yeah.
Whether they see other people run.
Whether they see other people run. Absolutely. What's happening out there with all the other humans? What's that? Sure, their habits, absolutely. Do I run every day? Is my body, mind, soul wanting that or not? Yep.
Why do they need to?
Why do they? My best friend basically says, if there isn't a saber-toothed tiger chasing me, I'm not going to go run. Yep. Safety. Amen. Amen. Yeah. So these are very macro factors, right? Safety. Do I have a place to run? Weather. Do I have somebody to go running with? How does my body feel about running? What's my readiness like, right? Stuff like that. We have to embrace these factors, but our digital health tools today are trying to work against them, and it's not going so well, right? So if we embrace, and I'm going to say the reality, I guess it's really a hypothesis, but the reality that stopping, so I get really healthy for a couple days, and then I stop, is normal because we are not machines, then we have to do better in designing the machines to support our health behavior patterns. It's not because when you go shove that Fitbit or that CGM or that whatever in the drawer, you're being normal, right? And I would imagine anybody who's ever had that experience in this room feels guilt or like you've let yourself down or you feel like you failed, you couldn't stick to the program. I would say you are wildly, incredibly, gorgeously human. And so we're going to do better. Our industry, this industry is going to do better. You heard me say at the beginning, I like to advocate for the humans using the machines. This is what my industry has to do to be better at designing for all of us, okay? The end users are not failing. The industry is. We can do better. Okay, so how are we going to do it? Here we go. Really quickly, I need to show you or tell you about a landmark study that was conducted a couple years ago, which fills me with tons of hope and promise. A group of researchers sat down and analyzed data from physical activity digital health tools. They looked at 115 million activity logs across 31 months. That's a lot of data, right? It's one of the largest data sets that's out there. And one of the things that was one of the most prominent patterns to emerge from this data set was that of all the people that left the app, which was most of them, and I'm using app as like a Of all the people that started and then stopped using their digital health tool, 2/3 came back at some point, irrespective of how long they had been away from the digital health tool. What do you think about that? 2/3 is high, right? I thought so too.
It seems familiar.
Familiar? Tell me more.
I put something away and tried to reuse it a month later.
Yes. Oof. That's it right there. That's the opportunity right now. She said, I've put something away and then I tried to use it again a month or two later. What happened when you tried to use it a month or two later? If you don't mind sharing.
Battery died.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. I currently work at one of the biggest tech companies in the world. I'm like, where are the battery engineers? Seriously. Seriously.
The battery doesn't recharge.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
use it.
Yes. Yes. It's so, yes. Thank you for being so human. Yes. Make the battery last. My husband uses a Garmin watch. Are there any Garmin users in here? Okay. I don't use Garmin, but he says the battery lasts forever. He's like, that's it. You choose any other watch and you get 36, maybe a little bit longer hours out of it. He's like, I don't have to charge my Garmin watch hardly at all. So he's a very happy Garmin user. Okay, great. Yeah. Any other commentary or thoughts about the 2/3 of the people returned to their digital health tool at some point? Say more about that, please.
Quite often, for example, one thing I'll do is I'll track myself for my diet, but I'll do it for
Yep.
see where I'm at, that's my baseline.
Yep.
And then I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
2 months, 3 months later.
Yes.
Check myself again. With my intention to come back.
Yes.
I never really left.
Yes, how gorgeously human of you. That's a big part of my advocacy inside tech companies is that when we see churn, when we see abandonment, and by the way, I love my industry. I'm not sounding very respectful right now. It doesn't mean gone forever, right? It doesn't mean never will I ever use it again, right? Because we're human and because the way we do this is intermittently, yes.
Also, when I come back, I'm not always in the same place.
Have you guys seen this talk before? Yes. I'm not in the same place. I'm a slightly different version of myself, or I've got something else going on. And was your tool prepared for that? No. Okay. So what can we do? Let's keep going. Thanks for that segue. What can we do? How can we be better? All right. So here's the good stuff. First, I feel a need to talk about the fundamentals. I am a behavior designer first and foremost. And what that means is I've spent my career working on digital health solutions that reduce burden and increase utility of the tool for whatever it is somebody's trying to use it for, right? Like that's my whole shtick. So fundamentally, as a behavior designer, we have to do a couple of things first to get the product or the service right first before we can have the luxury to design for intermittent use, right? And I'm just going to breeze through these because then we want to get into the how do we actually design for intermittent use. So you got to land it right first. You have to make sure that the people you're designing for actually want to use it. Fundamentally, what does that mean? So the fundamental of behavior designs, one, you got to know your humans. Who are you designing for? What do they need? What are their mental models? What drives and motivates them? What enables them to engage in their health and or with the tool that you've designed for them? In terms of what you're designing for, is this the first time they've ever done it? Are they a returner? Is this like a regular thing where they have a running habit? Or are they learning how to run for the first time? We have to know all these things. We have to bring these things to life. And we have to make them dynamic, whether you call them archetypes or profiles or personas or whatever your representation is, to make sure that your collective has an aligned understanding of who the end users are. That has to be intact. Second, we have to design for behaviors. It is amazing to me how many times I work with my colleagues. Sorry, Ray. When I work with my colleagues, and I might look at somebody straight in the face and say, what do you want your users to do? And they say, huh?
They say, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, you're building something for them to use. What are they going to use it to do? What do your users want to do? That's a great way to think about it too, right? And so we need to very succinctly, concretely crispify a list of behaviors that we are designing for. And it has to be aligned. And the other question I ask all the time is, when it comes to the behaviors we care about, do we care about in-app or do we care about in real life? The answer is always both, right? You put a gun to their head, for lack of a better phrase, they'll say in-app, right? Because you work at a technology company, you need people to use your technology, right? We have to get really, really specific and concrete around designing for behaviors. If I say to you, why is somebody using your tool, and you say to get fit is not a behavior. It's an outcome. What are some of the behaviors we could design for to enable and support somebody to get fit? Sure. Improve diet, make an exercise plan, sleep. Yeah, you guys got it. You know, right? The smaller, the better. The smaller, the better, right? Really, really tiny, specific, concrete behaviors. Be clear, be precise. If you do not have a target list of behaviors that matter, you will see churn, I promise. Third, we have to prioritize usability. People choose to use tools that are useful and usable. And so we have to know what usable means to our end user, right? There's a difference between plopping a tool into the lap of a 10-year-old versus a 90-year-old, for example. Just basic cognitive function, that's just human, right? And then last but not least, yeah, remove the friction, please. We have so much stuff in our tools right now. Last but not least, always be measuring real world use. It's so wonderful and magical if your digital health solution works in clinical trials or in the lab. We have to get that done first, right? Before we put it into the hand of a human, we have to make sure it's not going to do any harm. We have to make sure it's safe to use, all of those things. But once all of that is done, you have to be measuring real world use. And what I mean by that is plop it in their lap and see what happens, and don't say a word. And if they know what to do, you've got a usable tool. And if not, you don't. I recently took a job at a very big tech company, and the onboarding has been very interesting as an internal employee. There are things that I sit there and I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. Who designed this? We've all had those experiences, every single one of us, right? Okay, we're gonna get better. We're gonna get better. So the fundamentals have to be intact. I cannot stress this enough. These things have to be operationalized. Teams have to be aligned. We have to be practicing these fundamentals. And then we have the luxury of designing for intermittent use. So we're going to go back to the story about Angel at the beginning. My mom passed away. My brother was using this tool. I decided to get it to make sure my sleep was okay. And if it wasn't, I knew what to do. Turns out my sleep is okay. But now I don't know whether or not I want to use it. So I want you to put yourself in Angel's shoes. You've used a wearable for a couple of weeks, maybe just over a month. You don't want to use it anymore. What might encourage you to use it? Yeah.
What if I was using it for different context? I got from her story that she wanted to see if her sleep had an issue. Now she may be.
Okay, so she used it for like assessment and diagnoses, for lack of a better phrase at first, but now maybe it's to keep guard and make sure nothing comes up. Okay, great. Anything else anybody can think of? Yep.
Maybe if she learns of a new feature,
Okay, tell me more.
her friend might mention something like, oh, I can track your walking steps.
Yep.
I would also think perhaps knowing how much, or being reminded of how much she invested in it. Like they know that expensive. You know how like sometimes you have things and you're like, I spent so much money on this panini maker. Like 3 times. So then you're like, I gotta get my money out of this. So maybe that could be a reason for some people.
I love it. I love it. That is a fabulous way to design for short-term behaviors. Fabulous, incredibly effective. Not for sustainable behaviors though. guilt only goes so far. Yeah. And what does that do?
Maybe we'll be like, should I go? Yeah. I mean, try that again. Or like, something they bond over.
Oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yep, like her brother's like, oh, I'll be your workout buddy or whatever, or oh yeah, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he did, yeah, he did, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Don't knock it. It works. It works. It all comes to, and it works. Obviously, I'm going to say like, duh. If it's a spouse or a best friend or somebody who you have a lot of strong feelings for versus like a community of people that maybe you've never met before, how we self-identify is one of the strongest predictors of how long and for what reasons we engage in our health, right? So the reasons for you engaging in your health could be the way you identify with a specific community or a specific person or yourself, right? And so I think that's a lot of what you were just talking about. Okay. Yep.
Bought the device for a very specific use case.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't yet know of other affordances, of other ways that she can.
Right.
And there's that general lack of awareness, which is something that.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like if she finds out there's a new feature. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
A year ago, you were sleeping terribly.
Yeah.
Now you're sleeping really well.
Man, you guys, I'm going to take you everywhere with me. You got it. Okay, so this is how we're going to design for intermittent use. This is the framework that I mentioned. I want you to take this with you. This comes out of my 20 years of practice working with other teams, inspired by what we've seen work and what we've seen fail. And when we see these things happen, it gets a little better. We do a little better. Okay, so the first thing is we need to customize product interactions. What I mean by that is we have to open up more than one way to interact with the product, right? So we heard Angel say, every day it asks me to input my alcohol and my this and the, and I'm really annoyed by that. Well, what if she could just have a conversation with the tool about how much she drank that night or whatever? Or what if she could somehow link her Calorie King data, some other tool that she was already using, and it could just come in and it could know, just go ask this other tool what I ate that day. Don't ask me to have to do that. Just grab it from somewhere else because it already exists over there, right? Customizing product interactions means opening up the different ways that somebody can interact with your product or service and feed it the information it's asking for. Okay, so let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an example of all of these. All right, here we go, Tandem. So this was a couple years ago. So I'm going to date myself here a little bit. This was a couple years ago. Tandem Diabetes Care makes insulin pumps, which delivers subcutaneous insulin delivery. And several years ago, we heard over and over and over again from people using our pumps a few things. One, I need more discretion. It's not very easy to wear these pumps, where I keep them on my body, how I sort of, anybody want to guess where women keep their insulin pump? In their bra. That's right. And they hack that. We hack that. Okay. So that's wearability kind of gone wrong, right? It's better now. But I want discretion for when I have to use my medical device. I don't want to have to be at a dinner party and pull out my medical device. I need to be able to do this so much easier, without having to go through a million different steps to program the device to deliver my insulin. Give me more discretion, make it easier. So that was the design challenge we decided to embrace. And one of the things that we know about insulin requiring diabetes is that, especially when it comes to, and keep me honest here, especially when it comes to bolus insulin is the type of insulin you take for when you eat, when you're exercising, when you're doing various cardiometabolic activities. sometimes you need more insulin. One of the things we know about blood sugar and keeping stable blood sugar is that for people who need insulin throughout the day, the more frequently they dose themselves with insulin, the more stable their blood sugars are. Right? So from a behavior design perspective, this became also about frequency, right? How frequently do we want somebody to do the behavior? Right? Back to when I said, make sure you design for behaviors and be specific. We wanted to design for people to increase the number of times they dose themselves with insulin. And we decided to do that through customizing product interactions. We needed to make delivering insulin easier. So what did we do? We basically said, you don't have to use your medical device anymore. You can do it from your smartphone, right? Now, what you're staring at there on the left is the very first version of what the smartphone interface looked like for somebody who needed to dose insulin. Does that look easy? Who made that? Say it loud. The engineers! The engineers! The engineers, the most brilliant people on the planet, my best friends, right? Actually, one of my best friends actually made this. And I was like, oh no. So we went through tons of user interviews, sat and spent time with our humans, understood their mental models, made sure we could come up with some kind of experience that would make it safe, easy to do, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually we released a commercial version that looked like this. Back in the day, tap once or twice, you're done. And we decided to study about the first 5,000 people who opted to use their personal smartphones or have their personal smartphones in the picture for managing their diabetes. And we saw a 25% increase in insulin delivery doses on a daily basis, which has significant implications at a population level for stable blood sugars, right? So that's an example of customizing product interactions. We have to create flexible pathways. This is the second part of how we design for intermittent use. Creating flexible pathways is the on and off ramps. This is giving somebody the opportunity to pause. This is assuming that there's an intent to do it more than once, but unpredictably in terms of a pattern or a schedule. And so if we create flexible pathways, we embrace the reality that when we stop, it's a pause, it's not a leave forever, right? So creating flexible pathways, I'll just use my own, this is from me from last year, I'm just gonna use it because it's a quick and easy example that everybody can relate to. My gym, okay? One of the reasons I choose to belong to my gym is because it has a feature with the membership where you can pause your gym membership. And I think that's awesome, right? So I'm happy to pay the $100 a month or whatever and go to my gym. And I use my gym. I don't use my gym 12 months out of the year all the time. Last year, they did away with that feature. The gym said, you can no longer pause your membership. And I was like, well, shit, I'm out of here. So I left. Right? So I never use the gym in the summertime, ever. And I play with my kids, I do all these other things, we travel. So last May, I quit. And they're like, where are you going? I'm like, well, I would pause, but I can't pause anymore, so I'm gone. Yeah, so I quit. So roll around to the end of the summer, come August, and I get a note from the gym. Hey, are you thinking about coming back to the gym? We'd love to offer you this promo, just come on in, the next month's on us, come back to us. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm interested in this opportunity. What are the specific details? They told me, we'll prorate it depending on when you join. It's the same amount for $100. This would be a 12-month commitment. No, thanks. I said, okay, well, I don't want that. By the way, these are real messages between me and my gym. Okay, I don't want that. But if you have a shorter duration or a month to month, I would be happy to let me know. And they came back to me a couple days later. I checked with my general manager. We're happy to cancel your membership anytime 90 days or after. So 3 months is the commitment. And then after that, do whatever you want. How does that sound? I said, great. So I joined at the end of August, and I went until when? The holidays. I'm not that good, you guys. I joined at the end of August and I canceled in December because I don't use the gym when the holidays roll around and everybody's being festive and merry. I don't use the gym. So creating flexible pathways is all about enabling the pause. If you think about this gym, let's just pretend, I'm just going to use random numbers. Let's just pretend with a 1-year membership, the gym earns $500. But then every time I quit, they have customer acquisition costs to get me back. And if they just enabled the pause, they wouldn't have to spend all that resource to earn back my business. Yep. We do have competing, yes, we do, yes. Yes, thank you. So I'm not that naive, right? Of course, I live inside these companies. If we take the metadata I shared that showed that 60%, 2/3 of the people who leave will come back, it's a compelling argument for a CFO to just say, run with the pattern, stop spending all this money on trying to reacquire the business, right? That being said, with any subscription business, when you look across the cohorts of customers they have and how frequently they use the thing, the gym membership, the digital health tool, which cohort is the largest? Of all the groups of people that might use a gym membership, if you have to do a subscription that's a year or 18 months, there it is. Say it louder.
The disengaged.
The people
that are actually paying for
the
it.
people who are paying for it and not using it. So there's your CFO. And I'm saying this with love. I have lots of friends who are CFOs. Anytime I go into a company to learn about behavioral patterns of subscribers, the CFO looks me straight in the face and says, don't touch the people who are dormant. You may not talk to them. Do not trip the wire. And it's because it's their largest cohort and they're going to lose that business. That's right. Yeah. They want to sell more strips. Yes, absolutely it is. Now, diabetes strips are really interesting because it sounds like that financial model is dependent on frequency of purchase, right? But you have to work really hard to get people to repurchase over and over and over again, especially if they've got a stash of strips at home that are gone unused. So maybe we could rethink a business model. Oh, all these dark arts. I love all these dark arts. It's so true. It's so true. All of our appliances, my refrigerator, they used to last 100 years. They last 1 now. I know. But if you can consider and get creative with your business model, you can really see the returns because our motivation comes in waves. We are going to get motivated again. We're going to want to lose weight again. We're going to want to get fit again. And you want to be the place that your customer comes to when he or she gets that motivation wave again, right? Normalize and audit the brakes. We just talked about this a little bit, but this has to do with the fact, this is like traditional customer segmentation research, right? Look across your entire customer base, segment them according to frequency of use, engagement patterns. Are they engaging once a day, once a week, once a month? Figure out what your definition of customer lifetime value is, what pattern you need to see in order for your customers to retain, and then design for as many people to do those things. So real quick, this is an online yoga company. I did work with them. They have a subscription service. You pay X number of dollars per month. You get access to yoga classes that you can do. And as most companies discovered, If they take one yoga class a week, they retain. Once a week, that's a really nice habit. It's humans do really well if they do anything every week. And so we knew that the definition of retention for this yoga company was as long as people are still actively using the service to do yoga at day 91, we're good. We've got good retention. So the design opportunity was, how do we get people to do yoga up to day 91, right? And we learned things, right? We learned that people who save their favorite classes or give a heart to their favorite teacher, people who were investing in the service, retained. So then with that clarity, you design for those behaviors. And it's wildly, wildly effective. Last but not least, and then we're going to wrap up. I have two more things to share with you. Somebody already mentioned this. I think it was you. We have to support multiple lives. This is the reality that we evolve. We have different versions of ourselves. The version who left 2 or 3 months ago is not the same version that's going to return. Can you think of anybody in the world who does multiple lives really, really well? I couldn't think of anybody really good, but I came up with a really good one, I think. So for anybody who may or may not know the musical artist Taylor Swift, she recently did a global music tour. She was on tour for about 2 years. And the concert itself lasted, I don't know, something like 4 hours because she covered 17 years of music. Something like, well, let's just say 17 albums. I actually don't know how many albums she has, but I know it was 17 years of her music. Every single one of those albums represented a different version of herself. Every single album had a different flavor. We know this about our favorite artists. Books, characters, music, TV shows, all come with a slightly different version, right? This is how we are as humans. And so if we leave our digital health tool and then we come back, we have to design for that. We need to be prepared for that. I think this is a really big opportunity in the land of prevention medicine, right? This idea that, oh, I went and got my mammo, I'm done. Actually, no, right? We need to do it year after year or every 3 years or whatever it is, because you're maturing and you're becoming a different version of yourself. If we go back to the story about Angel, what triggered her to get the wearable was her grief. How she was sleeping when she was in grief versus how she sleeps when she has to globally travel versus how she sleeps if she's postpartum. These are the same person, different versions. So how do we design for the different versions, Steph 1.0, Steph 2.0, Steph 3.0? Right? We have to get better at that. And here's one way where we're going to get better at that. And I'm really pleased with your willingness to share, because I want to talk about that exact moment where you go back to the digital health tool and pick it back up again after it's been in the sock drawer for a month, a year, whatever. When you pick it back up, number one, you don't look to start where you left off. So we should never design for that. And that's the reality today. The reality today is if I decide to turn my smartwatch back on after it's been off for a couple days or a couple weeks or a couple months, the watch is going to say like, oh, let's pick up where you left off. That's a design fail. Number one, when people in that large study where 2/3 came back, the people who came back mirrored more of their onboarding behaviors and motivations than they did, oh, I'm going to pick up where I left off. But also, and it should never feel like starting from zero either. And this is a very fine balance we have to strike as designers, right? And somebody already said this, right? When somebody comes back after being gone for however long they've been gone for, it should never feel like starting from zero, right? So this is somebody who had a really nice solid walking pattern going, getting his 10,000 steps in every single day, and then fell off the wagon, as we all do all the time. And, this is before this was current. And he was like, yeah, I really got to get walking again. Our digital health tool upon re-entry should say, great, we're so happy you're back. We're ready to go. What you got going on? What's the latest? What version have we got? What we have to put the increased steps into context. And we have to find opportunities to say, just remember, you can do this. You've been here before. You've done this before. We can do this, right? Which is different than the same person you were before. You see the difference there? Those are very different things. Okay, and this is where the art of behavior design lives. This is an example of where behavior design.
And you account for there's also different multiple contexts that I can come back with, right? So in this example that you gave is a really good one because I can come back and I actually do want to get back to 10,000, or for example, I just had an ankle injury and maybe getting back to 10,000 is not possible,
yes.
right? So it's part of it trying to help me figure out what is now achievable in my new state.
Yes. And Mr. Expert AI, this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about the Gen AI technology that is here now. To be able to apply a generative AI experience to the reentry is very exciting and potentially very efficacious, right? Hey, Steph, you're back. We're so happy you're here. What you got going on? To be able to enable a simple conversation like you would with a human trainer or a human PT or a human coach, right? We can do that now, which is very, very cool. Now, whether or not the machines and the models are smart enough to know with whatever responses they get, that's what we're working on, right? That's what we have to work on right now is if you're willing to share your context, if you're willing to share, I just had a baby and I can't sleep, I've had an ankle injury and I can't walk very well, but I really want to see what I can do. We have to design the Gen AI to be smart and safe and private and trustworthy and all those things. And if we can do that and get the personalization part right, it's going to be potentially very game-changing for this set of tools for this industry. Questions, comments, concerns, curiosities? I talked longer than I wanted to. I think I had a little bit of energy with you guys. By the way, really quickly on the reentry, this is a really critical design tactic. Upon reentry, ankle injury, you have to design for the smallest behavior that matters, right? So instead of, I want to walk 10,000 steps, how about if we just see how many we can walk today? Yeah, this is the baby steps approach, right? So I want to start exercising again. Let's take a walk after dinner. I want to eat healthier. Let's try to add one vegetable to our plate. I want to sleep better. How about if we try to turn off our phone at 9:30 tonight? Let's see how that goes, right? The reentry has to be gentle. Yes?
I love that you're using the word let's and we. Coach/buddy. Is it that's flex?
Yes. 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 That's the important thing. It's all, that's it. That's the game right there. And I'm going to take us back to the elevator, right? Everybody has a different attitude and comfort level in this day and age with generative AI. And as a society, we're going to keep evolving. Every new technology comes to market and we get to decide if we're an early adopter, if we need to wait for a little while, if we're ready to go full Monty, here's my whole life, take it and fix it, please, right? And then everybody in between. And so the thing that we all need to keep in mind, and all of your loved one needs to keep in mind, is that the more you're willing to give to an AI model, it will happily take and use. So it can be as personalized as you want. But we have to make it safe and private and secure and all those things. And anybody in the world who's in cybersecurity or privacy or anything right now, man, you are it. You are the person. All right. That's it. Any last questions, comments, concerns, or curiosities? Hopefully people will stick around and chat for a few minutes if they want to. Otherwise, I will say a grand thank you. I really appreciate you guys and your comments. It was very, very helpful for me. I learned a lot tonight, and I'm so glad. Anything else?